reporting.
We've made significant progress wiring the nation's schools for the internet, but we have to do more. Every child in America should have an internet-capable computer in their bedroom at home, preferably with a high-resolution webcam. I have been to children's chat rooms and have been shocked and disappointed to find they are frequently empty. Even when these youngsters do manage to find their way online, they lack the skills to do something as simple as pinpoint their location on Google Maps. I long for the day when someone can log onto the Nickelodeon Under 13 chat room and type, "Hey, any kids in here like to play Pokemon Mystery Dungeon? I have a Nintendo at my house," and be overwhelmed with instant messages. Then I'll know we're doing our job supporting technology in this country.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything that you want as we kick off another Saturday edition. We're here live in the studio tonight. It's Ian.
And the captain.
Of course, the phones are open. You can take control of the airwaves here. We always bring in stuff to talk about on the way. Shrooms and cannabis together.
Shroonibus.
Have they studied something new? It looks like they have. With colon cancer, could possibly be
Got something to do with your colon.
a cure. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Also, in the bad news category, China in the Shanghai lockdown situation, which many people probably don't even know is happening, but has been for a few weeks now, I believe. They're basically just killing people's dogs, it seems like. And this is a story that is not getting much in the way of media coverage.
Like cops in the U.S.?
No, worse. I've got video footage here, ostensibly taken recently, right? You don't know. You never know. It's from China. It's only 10 seconds long, but it's pretty disturbing. You've got men, presumably, maybe some women. You can't tell. They're in the full-on bodysuits, like the hazmat kind of suits. And so there's multiple people in suits in a street, what looks like just any old city street. They've got maybe 5 or 6 foot long rods, like with adjustable rods where you can kind of grab a thing at the end of it. They're using their hands to try to grab these corpses of dogs with these metal rods and then put them into plastic bags. And you can see multiple dogs laying in the street. This isn't there has been some news about one dog that got kicked to death or beaten to death by one of these agents. There was video about that came out a few days ago. And if you look for China or Shanghai dogs killing or whatever, if you search for that, you'll find stories about that, and the government's downplaying it, oh, well, he shouldn't have done it like that, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And that was just one dog. I count a minimum of 5 in this particular 10-second video that are just laying in the streets with at least 5, maybe 6 of these suited men dealing with these dead animals and putting them into bags. So the claim is that this is happening to every dog in Shanghai, that they are just exterminating them.
Why?
Well, due to COVID.
Do they think dogs are spreading COVID or something?
Maybe. They certainly that was one of the theories during the early days of COVID here. I think they sort of put that one away after a while because they probably would upset a lot of people by going around and killing their dogs, but it seems to be something they're doing in at least parts of Shanghai.
That's so weird.
It's horrifying.
I know the situation over there is in all sorts of unimaginable mess. I know they have robot dogs rolling around with the what do you call them, the loud horns or whatever strapped to them. And if you're out past curfew or something, the robot dogs will roam around your neighborhood and you are out past curfew. It's time for you to go in or whatever. They don't say it like that, but
Yep. In fact, there's another story here from opindia.com that talks a little bit about the robot dogs. And they say that Shanghai is under indefinite lockdown due to a surge in COVID-19 cases. There were 20,000 cases reported on Thursday in the biggest city in China. Now, we're talking about a city, I believe, if I recall correctly, of about 26 million people. So, I mean, 26 million people. That is the size of the state of Florida or Texas, right?
Yeah.
Like, as far as population is concerned, it's a tremendous amount of people. So only 20,000 of them have COVID, and they're using that as the excuse to lock down everyone.
Maybe we just sort of live in isolation from, the big cities and all that kind of thing. But it seems to me most people around here anyway are sort of over the whole thing. The masks are gone, lockdowns are like a thing of the past. People talk about them in the past tense. Oh, it was right about the time lockdown started happening, right? And you're like, oh, okay, so like a couple of years ago, right? But they're locking. I mean, anybody who's a human being has probably been exposed to COVID at this point in their life, one would think, as fast as it was supposedly spreading by all the original tracking that they did of all the people and that kind of thing. If you were going to get it, you got it. If you didn't get vaccinated, you aren't dying. So that's important to point out that the unvaccinated, they seem to be doing just fine.
Yep.
Some of them got over it. Some of them never got it and probably never will.
But the authoritarianism continues unabated in Shanghai, where
China,
the BBC report suggests residents are running out of food. Recently, the city started another round of mandatory mass testing to isolate every case. The lockdown is now on its 20th day. This was written yesterday, or 2 days ago, so day 22 today, and there are no signs of any relaxation so far. China is, of course, known for suppressing any voice being raised against the communist administration by its people. Technologically advanced Dragon is now using tech toys to keep a check on its citizens. This must be like a translated article or something. It's a strange statement. Technologically advanced Dragon. Several videos have emerged on social media platforms showing drones and robotic dogs being used for announcements and directing citizens to stay inside.
Yeah.
Alice Su, senior China correspondent for The Economist, shared a video on her Twitter account. In the video, a drone could be seen making an announcement directing people to not open their windows and sing. Because remember back early on during COVID, there were videos of people like in San Francisco who were locking down like they were told to, like obedient serfs, but they were singing out their balcony windows to just try to raise their spirits.
Well, it's common for slaves to, have songs.
Yes, that's right. Swing low.
That's right. Coming for to carry me home.
Shanghai residents, this is what the thing said, the drone that's floating around there in Shanghai. Shanghai residents go to their balconies and sing. Oh, sorry, this is what she wrote about it. Shanghai residents go to their balconies to sing and protest lack of supplies. A drone appears. The drone says, quote, "Please comply with COVID restrictions. Control your soul's desire for freedom. Do not open the window or sing."
Holy mega creepy. I mean,
it's horrifying.
So many things going on in China. I know I had something for show prep that talks about they're still harvesting organs.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too, since we're talking China.
Yeah, all sorts of crazy things are going on over there. And, what are people doing? What's people's reaction? Well, they still have their Ukrainian flags on their profile pictures. Mm-hmm. So, they must be helping. Nobody says a word about any of it. Like, we've been talking about the China thing, I don't know, a couple of years ago.
A couple of years, yeah.
Talking about the am I pronouncing it right? The Uyghurs, the UIHGU.
Sounds good. Yeah.
The Uyghurs. They've been literally being exterminated by, near as I could tell, the Chinese government.
Oh, no, it's just a re-education camp. No extermination.
They've had organs harvested.
Rumors, just rumors.
Well, there's more of that, you know. Now they've got these robot dogs rolling around. I don't know if folks who are listening are familiar with a television show called Black Mirror.
I've heard a lot about it.
It's a great show. There is an episode called Metalhead in which a dystopian future is envisioned where people, I believe, are being kept on these sort of reservations, and the rest of the areas are being patrolled by these robot dogs, right? Boston Dynamics style, the same kind you see in the videos of the ones that are roaming around in China, the same kind of, and so they're after people, except instead of being armed with a bullhorn strapped to them, why, they've got a firearm installed inside of the snout and that kind of a thing. So
only a matter of time.
I mean, how hard can it be to
Not
swap
hard.
that speaker out for a firearm?
People have done it with their own
robotic.
private drones.
Yeah.
As far as the ones that fly around, they've strapped guns to those things.
If you think governments don't already have guns strapped to drones or otherwise installed, I got another story for you.
The number here is 603-283-6160. You can join us. The restrictions in China. We'll talk more about that. And don't say it can't happen here.
Oh, yeah.
Because it pretty much
did.
already did. China just takes it a little bit further than the rest of the world.
Lockdown 2, lockdown harder.
There's more coming up. It is Free Talk Live's Live Saturday show.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk live Saturday show continuing here. We're talking about China, specifically Shanghai, city of 26 million people. Locked down due to COVID.
How many million?
26 million.
Good Lord.
That is one of the most populated cities on the planet. It wouldn't surprise me if it's in the top 5. It's humongous, that amount of people.
And how many bureaucrats do you think there are in China?
Probably like 2.6 million or something like that. Like a whole tenth of the city. If you want to weigh in, maybe you've been to Shanghai, maybe you're there right now. If you want to share your thoughts, please do. The number is 603-283-6160.
Also, if anybody knows the difference between water torture and Chinese water torture, I'm curious.
Whatever it is, I don't want to find out personally. Like, I don't want to experience it.
Well, no, me neither, but it's kind of like the old bit about food. Like, if you're in Mexico and you want some Mexican food, you just go out for food, right? If you're in China and you want some Chinese food, you just go out for food, right?
Except there you get real Chinese food. You don't get the American stuff.
Yeah, I understand.
Right.
But
same thing's true in Mexico. You don't get the American style tacos. You get the real thing.
Oh, and also, if you have ever been to an international house of pancakes outside of the United States, I would love to know, because I question their international credentials.
So if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. Also, if you're interested in learning about cryptocurrency, another thing China has tried to ban across the board there, Bitcoin mining, all kinds of Bitcoin-related stuff. You should learn about it because it's not going away as much as these governments of the world would like to get rid of it. It is a technology that's here to stay, and you have to learn the basics. Go to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started at the top of the page, and you'll find some introductory videos you can watch. The first one's, I think, all of about 3 minutes long, so if you've got 3 minutes to spare, go and watch that one at Bitcoin.com. Click Get Started. You can dig deep as you want to into the topic of cryptocurrency. It's absolutely fascinating stuff. So once again, that's Bitcoin.com. They also have a great news site. So if you want the latest news headlines about crypto, go to news.bitcoin.com. Again, that's news.bitcoin.com. So we started out the show talking a little bit about China, specifically Shanghai, apparently going around just killing people's dogs. At least those are the reports from like the real people living there. The mainstream media has yet to pick up on this.
When you're a statist and you're bored, I mean, what are you going to do?
Well, they have their excuse, I'm sure. Oh, well, it's for safety. We got to keep people safe from COVID, so we'll just literally cull all of people's animals. And I remember there was, I don't know if you saw this story, Captain, but it was, I think, the Netherlands where they went, or somewhere up in that region of Europe, where they went and confiscated millions of mink. And
sounds familiar.
They put them to death.
Yeah.
Because they were worried, or one of them had come down with COVID or something, so they just said, well, we'll just kill the entire industry's inventory of minks.
If you need something done in or twice the time at double the budget and for zero quality, government is your man.
Indeed. So here's a story from RT about the lockdown in Shanghai. Again, 26 million residents of China's economic capital of Shanghai will be confined to their homes, as Beijing imposes a massive citywide lockdown in a bid to maintain what they call a zero COVID policy, which, of course, is impossible, right? Like, even the Democrats in the United States sent out a press release, or not a press release, it was like it was a public relations firm that Biden had hired to advise them about whatever. And the PR firm sent their the write-up to the Biden administration saying, you got to get rid of the zero COVID thing. This is impossible. People are getting sick and tired of these lockdowns. You guys are going to lose in November if you keep this crap up. And that's one of the reasons why you've seen a major pullback, even in places like New York City, which have been the most insane of places to live in the United States up until just recently. But it's because of this PR firm. They did the research. They looked at the surveys of the American people, whether they be in the cities or outside of the cities, and people are sick and tired of this stuff. And there's no way to have zero COVID. It's a cold. It's a flu. It's something that is going to pass. Remember, there was a story you did last year, I think, of the military. Remember they did like the
lockdown super supreme. Yeah. And they couldn't.
They had the cleanest facility you could possibly have.
And the most obedient people participating in this particular experiment.
Yeah, like triple wash, clean the bathroom after every use. I mean, as clean as it could possibly be. COVID still got in.
Extreme lockdown, I think is what we called it.
So the whole idea that they can maintain zero COVID is absolute insanity, but that's what they're trying to do. The lockdown will be conducted in 2 phases. First, their Pudong Financial District and nearby areas will be quarantined. This was written less than 2 weeks, about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And they've gotten worse since then. But just to give you where they started this, from Monday to Friday, which of course they've been quarantined longer than that now. Second, Pudong will pass the baton to the vast downtown area west of the Huangpu River, which will start its own 5-day lockdown on Friday. To control the growing outbreak, the lockdown will be accompanied by a new round of mass nucleic acid testing across the city. China's
the whole city's doing acid? What?
reported. And that might make it a little more tolerable. Citing Shanghai officials, Beijing recorded 3,500 cases of the infection on Sunday. As all residents are required to stay at home and avoid any contact with the outside world, all public transport in the lockdown areas will be suspended. Groceries will be delivered and left at checkpoints. All non-essential businesses in Shanghai will close their offices, making employees work from home. The decision comes as Beijing continues to abide by its zero-tolerance policy toward COVID-19.
All right, look, I got nothing against grocery delivery, but only when it's voluntary. Like, if you're a person that needs that, or you live remotely or something, you're just too busy, and there's a convenient way for you to get your groceries delivered, go for it. But if it's your government telling you will only get groceries from the corner of Smith Street and 71st Avenue, and only on Tuesdays between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m., no.
And imagine having to rely on the state to give you your groceries when supposedly
you'll get half of what you ordered.
China's authorities are free to use public health measures such as mass testing, contact tracing, and lockdowns in order to stop community transmission of the virus as soon as it's detected. The goal is to get the area of an outbreak back to zero new infections and resume normal economic social activities as soon as possible, but it has been criticized by many who argue it takes too much of an economic toll. Not to mention that you've literally got people who are running out of food at this point because this thing is still going.
How is it that governments can do something like contact tracing, whereby they can find out, who came in contact with who and how often and at what period and
they
what point
threaten
in day
you,
time and
they kidnap you and demand
how is it
information?
that they can do that, but they can't find any pedophiles?
Well, they found what's her name? Ghislaine Maxwell.
And all of the people on the flight list and all the people who flew
they're leaving all them
back, not one person?
Everyone in her little black book, that's been information they've suppressed. They're not letting that data out.
Not one person. Not one single person.
By the way, this so now update. So that was the beginning, right, of this lockdown. Update from somebody who's living there right now. There are now new restrictions on day 22. We'll talk about it. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week was bookended by shameful Russian atrocities in Ukraine. It started with the world learning of last month's execution of civilians in the city of Bucha and ended with a missile attack on a crowded railway station in the east of the country. At least 50 people died in that incident. At the White House, the reaction from Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
This is yet another horrific atrocity committed by Russia, striking civilians who are trying to evacuate and reach safety.
And President Biden said earlier in the week that he believes Vladimir Putin should face a war crimes tribunal.
We have to gather the information. We have to continue to provide Ukraine with the weapons they need to continue the fight. And we have to gather all the detail so this can be have a war crime trial.
The US and its European allies ratcheted up their sanctions against Russia this week, even targeting Putin's two daughters. But the Russian ruble rebounded to pre-war levels. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in an impassioned address to the UN Security Council, warned that if the world body can't guarantee peace in a country like Ukraine, it might as well close down.
If this continues, the countries will rely only on the power of their own arms to ensure their security, and not on international law, not rely on international institutions.
The UN did vote this week to expel Russia from membership in the UN Human Rights Council. History was made in the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris announcing that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson had been confirmed by the US Senate to become the first black woman ever to sit on the US Supreme Court.
The yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and this nomination is confirmed.
There was an extended ovation after she read out that result, but Republicans, with the sole exception of Senator Mitt Romney, walked out of the chamber and refused to recognise the passing of an historic milestone. Britain's Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, and his wife found themselves in the middle of damaging revelations about their financial arrangements. Mr. Sunak's wife now says she will voluntarily pay tax on all her global income in the UK, but the couple also revealed they were legal residents of the United States until last year, and it's unclear whether they properly reported their income in America. The children's author and illustrator David McKee died this week. He created Mr. Ben, the much-beloved animated television character who popped into a costume shop whenever he was in the mood for a magical adventure. He also created Elmer the Patchwork Elephant. David McKee was 87. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live.
Sorry, Baxter, I don't speak Spanish.
That's actually Chinese. And you'll be in. We don't know what the man in the video is saying, but that's not what I want you to hear. I want you to hear the background. This is video that apparently is taken in Shanghai within the last 2 days. Apparently by the father of a close friend of Patrick Madrid. That is somebody on Twitter, at Patrick Madrid. He says she verified its authenticity. It is people screaming out of their apartment windows after an entire week of total lockdown.
That's much better than people just getting a cold.
Playing the part of peakless mountaineer tonight will be Bonnie.
Yes, Bonnie is joining us here. So we're talking about the news out of Shanghai, where 26 million people are basically on lockdown. They're murdering people's dogs in the streets in some number. There's some people are saying it's all pets are being put to death.
It's so sad.
But there's obviously no way to be 100% sure about that. That's just the claims on the internet. Of course, the mainstream media is ignoring this stuff for the most part, or they're just glossing over what's really going on.
And the question here, of course, is the same question that gets asked throughout history when regimes decide to do horrible things to their populations. And that is, well, didn't they see this coming? Why aren't they doing anything? Why did they just allow it to happen?
Well, they're doing something now because, look, if you get enough people hungry enough, they're going to snap. They're going to take risks that they otherwise would never have taken. And there's no doubt that the Chinese are one of the most controlled populations on the planet.
I would definitely agree.
The Chinese Communist Party has been working for a very, very long time at total control, and this is the latest implementation, the largest implementation, again, a city of 26 million people. But again, people get hungry, they're going to get desperate. And there are now videos of people actually out in the streets. You're not supposed to leave your house. In fact, according to Jared T. Nelson on Twitter, he says, day 22 of my Shanghai COVID lockdown. He is apparently a compliance lawyer in mainland China. So he lives there. He says, as we feared yesterday, we have new restrictions. Before, we were allowed to leave our building, but not community, to get deliveries. Remember the RT story written a couple weeks ago, the very beginning of this, said they would be delivering groceries to checkpoints.
Right, yeah.
And you could go to get them. No more. He says, now we are not allowed outside our apartment door.
Wow.
This was as of 14 hours ago that he posted
Somebody's
this.
still got to bring the groceries.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or are they just like, no, you don't get groceries either. Screw you guys.
Well, there's I told you about this off the air, Captain. Somebody posted an image of an apartment complex, just kind of a shot of some of the stories where you can see the balconies that people have. And one person had put their refrigerator on the balcony with the doors wide open, completely empty inside, just to show the world that they have no food left.
Well, and there was that man that was going up and down the streets yelling, we can't live without food. I only had enough food for...
Maybe this is why they're killing the dogs. It's for the food source.
Oh, my God, no.
Right? Isn't that 101 Ways to Walk Your Dog, the Chinese cookbook?
I don't think they're doing that,
Captain. Well, then why are they killing the dogs if it's not
due to COVID?
What does that mean?
I don't know. There's no official statement from the government about this. So what's happening?
I mean, if the government's reaction to COVID is causing the hunger, then perhaps, one could argue that they're killing the dogs due to COVID and eating them.
Well, I don't know. There's no claim about that, Captain. I have no idea if that's what their plan is. I don't know how many people would want to put up with that, but I guess if you're hungry enough, then...
Yeah, mark coconut safe from the Chinese police dog people.
Let me tell you, it does not look like they are treating these dogs as far as they're intending to eat them. They have them lying on the pavement in the video that I showed
I suspect
earlier.
That's not why
Yeah, they have them lying on the pavement. They're manipulating their corpses with long metallic... grasping tools and putting
like
them into,
I wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole. Yeah,
putting them. They're treating them as though they're disease carriers.
Yeah.
Basically, they're putting them into yellow plastic bags, and I suspect taking them to an incinerator.
I was going to say they need to be burning them if that's what their concern is.
So let's go to your phone calls and thoughts. Though I know we got Adam on the line in Washington State, listening to KXLY in Spokane. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Hey, what's on your mind?
New Hampshire?
Yep. Yes, sir. Live for your
What's
die.
on my mind? I'm just listening to the show. I run a page over here, a libertarian page, us kooks.
Okay.
The Liberty guys, and been paying attention to pretty much all the anti-freedom situations that are going on worldwide that are endless and always will be. Shanghai being the latest. I mean, do we expect any less from China?
Nope.
Do we? I mean, have they ever done anything to give us hope that they would act any differently? And is it even COVID? Could it be anything? Could it be rotten pizza in the streets, alien invading from the north? It's going to be some statist government reason to come in and take your rights away. I mean, they just said you can't come outside your door today. There's no reason for that. You got Soylent Green as doggos. I mean, what?
It's this insane. I mean, this is reality now.
The world is so
really
weird right now.
Like I said, it's kind of an expected culmination of what we've been seeing them doing with their social credit system, what they're trying to apply here, why we're seeing our federal government fast-tracking the digital dollar, why they are defaulting on the dollar, because we're slided into the digital age. And that's where Bitcoin's going to die.
Bitcoin's going to die?
And those governments over in China, they're sitting there trying to outlaw it right now. First it was regulations. Those didn't work. So now it's going to come out to outright laws against using digital currency.
They already outlawed
digital currency.
mining Bitcoin in China like a year ago, and it didn't kill Bitcoin.
They're going to find ways. Our government, look at human history.
There's been nothing like Bitcoin in human history.
Yeah, well, there's been nothing like a lot of things we got going on digital-wise in human history, but it hasn't slowed down the tyranny of governments, has it?
No,
could you prove that it hasn't? I don't think you could go back in time and show me what life would be like today if Bitcoin didn't exist.
Well, obviously we can't control.
We do know. I'm going to say this. We do know that an alternative currency is what is necessary to defeat what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Governments rule us. Bankers rule them because they own the currency.
Right.
Let's put that on the table. Bitcoin is necessary. Alternative currencies are necessary. But I do not have any confidence that our government has not already found a way to take care of that for us.
If they did, they would have done something.
Well, I mean, they are definitely working on regulations. There's a lot of talk about that. What did they do there?
They froze people's accounts completely. Now, I know that was the monetary system.
No, they only froze their bank accounts.
They
only froze their bank accounts.
The only thing they were able to do was prevent an exchange or a couple of exchanges from sending money to one very specific address.
Or from, I think it was actually 30-something addresses. That
Right.
Yeah, an exchange holds the keys to your wallet, and people who had their cryptocurrency on a wallet where they controlled the keys, such as Edge Wallet or Exodus, they didn't have anything happen to their crypto in Canada. That's a lie.
Right. And if you're familiar at all with...
I'm not aware of... I have heard about that you did have...
If you're familiar at all with the technology...
Just headlines.
My wallet actually creates a new address for every transaction that I do. Right? So if I want it to. If I want to send... from this address, I can send from an address that exists, or it goes create new address every time. So, no, the government did not shut anything down despite the clickbait headlines that they put forward. They were not able to shut any cryptocurrency down. They were only able to shut down terrestrial banks.
I was not aware whether they were. No, I just said it was the standard monetary accounts they were able to affect.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, they have total control. I mean, that's the banking system, as you pointed out, Adam. The banking system and the governments work hand in hand. So whatever the government goons say, the banks will put into effect. But I do want to bring him back here because I think he's making an interesting argument. That is that the government's going to crack down on cryptocurrency. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Don't worry about things you can't control. Isn't that what they always say? But it's about impossible to avoid worrying about what's going on these days. The government has used the war on guns, the war on drugs, and the war on terrorism to tear our Bill of Rights to shreds. But you can fight back. The 10th Amendment Center has proven it, racking up major victories. For example, when the U.S. government claimed authority in the NDAA to have the military kidnap and detain Americans without trial, the nullifiers got a law passed in California, declaring the state's refusal to ever participate in any such thing. Their latest project is offnow.org, nullifying the National Security Agency. They've already gotten model legislation introduced in California, Arizona, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kansas, meant to limit the power of the NSA to spy on Americans in those states. We'd be fools to wait around for the U.S. Congress or courts to roll back Big Brother. Our best chance is nullification and interposition on the state level. Go to offnow.org, print out that model legislation, and get to work nullifying the NSA. The hero Edward Snowden has risked everything to give us this chance. Let's take it. Offnow.org.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. The phones are open here. The number is 603-283-6160. We got more coming up about the insanity going on in Shanghai with one guy who is apparently an American living over there, giving us an interesting rundown. His name is Jared T. Nelson on Twitter, at Jared T. Nelson, and he has a very detailed thread here about that he's written over the last 24 hours about what they have to do to get supplies into their building. Now that they're not allowed to leave their apartments. And day number 22 of a lockdown there. We'll continue with that discussion with you tonight. You've got Ian.
And Bonnie.
And the captain.
We are going to go back to your calls, though. Adam is still with us here. He's on the line in Spokane listening to KXLY. Adam, you're predicting that cryptocurrency can be somehow controlled by the government. And I don't want to put words in your mouth. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not a big computer guy. I know enough about the difference in operating systems. And right now, you and I and everyone here in America is using what I call the old analog computer system. And I hate to call it that, but government and all of their Five Eyes guys here, NSA here in the U.S., they've bumped up, okay? They have the quantum computer system. And so sometimes I feel that when...
Well, that's an interesting theory, but I don't know if there's any evidence for that.
There's a few good articles. I'd have to go and dig them up.
Well, if they have quantum computers,
sort of like,
then why don't they go ahead and crack Bitcoin? Because if you had quantum computing, you'd be able to crack the cryptography.
There's steps to this. There's steps to this.
Mm-hmm.
What you do to people in China, you can do to people in China because your government rules the individual. You have communist government. Okay? What you do in China, you want to do to the people of the United States of America, you got to do gradually.
You got to do what? You cut out for a second there. You got to what?
You got to do it. You got to do it like Ron Paul was warning us in the 80s. Okay? Getting up in front of the Senate and telling everybody, this is what they're doing to your civil liberties. This is what's coming down the road. Please pay attention. Please. And here
so
we are.
you're saying you believe that they have just let me see if I'm following you. You're saying you believe the government already has quantum computing, and that the reason they're not using the power of quantum computing to crack cryptocurrencies today is because they have some sort of long-term plan, and that's why they're not doing it?
Yeah, the long-term plan. I think that when you saw what you saw in Canada, I really do believe that was a kind of a screw-up by the old Cuban bastard up there. Okay?
What could be so important that would make them wait to take out arguably the most threatening thing to their entire way of being? I'm talking about all states.
It doesn't make sense. They wouldn't spend millions of dollars investigating the Crypto 6 over 5 years, going after people who were selling cryptocurrency on, but going after people who are selling cryptocurrency on the internet on local bitcoins if they could just destroy crypto with, the flick of a hand.
It's called effort. Why would you go through the effort? I'll answer the question. Why would you go through the effort of doing something like that now when your currently designed and fast-tracked digital currency is going to do it anyway?
What, you think the central bank digital currency is going to somehow kill Bitcoin, dude?
That's ridiculous.
I think that they're going to try to replace.
That just comes from a place of not understanding what crypto is. You already admitted you don't understand what it is. Hey, can I ask you a question? Are you one of those people who goes on, say, Instagram and Twitter, and anytime somebody brings up,
I don't go on Instagram or Twitter.
Hey, anytime somebody brings up,
media. In fact, it's the first time I've heard.
Okay, I can't talk with this guy. You should probably just hang up on him. He won't let me ask him a question.
Yeah, will you let the lady ask you a question, dude?
Go ahead, ask me a question. Let's hear it.
Are you one of those people that goes on the internet? And anytime somebody brings up, hey, cryptocurrency is the answer to this, in say a comment section, you go and place doubt about cryptocurrency? Are you one of those people who are paid to do that by the government because you don't know what you're talking about and you're just placing doubt in the only thing that has...
I buy my marijuana seeds. I think cryptocurrencies, as I said earlier, if you'd listened, I think that they are awesome. I think that you have to have an alternative currency to what's going on.
But you believe that they're going to be destroyed by the central bank digital currency.
And you're okay with placing seeds of doubt about something that you don't know anything about.
They've stepped on our freedom everywhere. And if you don't think they have an ability or something up their sleeve to do what they've done to us for the last 250 years, I'm sorry. I know it's a pie in the sky idea. I know it's, hey, it's not in front of us, but what has been so far? That has occurred to us.
You're a real depressing character, I'll tell you that. Thank you for
people have had conspiracy theories, quote unquote, about everything they've done to us, and then it comes out into the light.
Yeah, I don't appreciate the negativity, but I understand why people are so negative. Thank you for the call tonight, Adam.
Yeah, he wouldn't be if he had any understanding of what cryptocurrency is. If he thinks that the CBDC can come and destroy Bitcoin, then he doesn't have any understanding of what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm more interested in truth than just people who want to go and say, oh, well, this is how I feel like, this is what I feel like they're going to do. Look what they've done. It's before. Look what they're going to do to crypto. I can't see any other answer to how this is going to end. It's just like, you need to educate yourself on what cryptocurrency is. I don't have any more patience for it. I see it on the internet every day. People are like, oh, what if the CIA created Bitcoin? I don't have any patience for that anymore. Why would the CIA create something that would lead to Monero being created?
Which is a privacy coin that cannot be traced, cannot be tracked. I think you're absolutely right about this, Bonnie. I think he was interrupting you. You were interrupting him. It was hard for there to be a conversation there. But ultimately, I think that your summation is correct, and that is that the caller did not understand cryptocurrency and was coming from a place of either ignorance or, as you suggested, maybe he's actually working for the state and trying to place
fear. Either way,
trying to place seeds of doubt.
It is incredibly hard for human beings, but you have to try. It's incredibly hard for you to not have an opinion of something.
You mean even if something you don't know anything about?
Exactly. The human culture, at least Western culture, is almost one of you have to have an opinion of stuff that you have no knowledge of. Right? I find myself doing this. I'm guilty of this as well, and have been for some time. But the way our culture is, if you start talking about a subject, it is human nature for you to pipe in with an opinion, even if you have no experience or factual basis whatsoever. And we see this all the time. It's why I have a low opinion of the general population, because this happens way too frequently. Now, I'm cognizant of it. I'm making an effort to not do so. You have to remember that it's okay to say, I don't know. I don't know anything about that subject. I haven't looked into that. Instead of having an opinion based on headlines that you've read somewhere, or based on what you've been fed by social media or your television.
And of course, there's no reason to be ignorant on any topic these days when you literally have information at your fingertips from both sides or more than one side of whatever the issue happens to be. So if you want to learn about cryptocurrency, then go and learn about it, especially if you're a self-described libertarian, as that person claimed that he was. And it's really a depressing thing to be in favor of liberty, purportedly, but to also have the simultaneously have the belief that government has some secret plot that they've cooked up that's going to foil all of the libertarian efforts out there. And cryptocurrency arguably is a libertarian effort. The argument would be that Satoshi Nakamoto was an anarchist or a voluntarist or something like that, the creator of Bitcoin. And Bonnie's absolutely right. Cryptocurrency cannot be stopped by the state, but I do believe they are going to do their worst. They're going to try their damnedest to put a stop to it, and ultimately they, I think, are going to fail at that because they cannot control it. It is ultimately freedom of speech because we're talking about programming, that is words written by humans to make things go on computers. And I don't think they're going to have any success. If they do try to prohibit it, I think that can be overturned just simply because of freedom of speech, if for no other reason. And then you add to that the fact that some Congress people already are into Bitcoin, so they're not gonna vote against it. So I think it's gonna be interesting to see how this pans out. They definitely do want people to use the central bank digital currency. He predicted that, and I think that part is true. They're gonna push that pretty hard, but it's not gonna kill Bitcoin.
No,
the central bank digital currency is not a competitor to Bitcoin.
It's gonna be so much less effective and free, have less features than all of the cryptos that are out there.
Think of all of the advancements that have been made in monetary technology since the dawn of the U.S. dollar.
Well, they added the strip. Remember? They didn't have the strips.
Well,
back in
they
the
changed
90s.
the printing a couple of times.
Yeah, now they're colorful.
They still use cotton bond, so I'm told.
That's right, yeah.
But yeah, so state-controlled money has had one feature implemented, at least in my lifetime, that I can remember, whereas cryptocurrency is continuous innovation day after day.
I mean, that point alone, the fact that cryptos have no restrictions and they can constantly be innovated is a number one reason why they're going to win. So are they winning yet? Well, I mean, they're new. We're only 13 years into this whole crypto
There have been lots of wins so far.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Of course, Bitcoin has been the number one investment in the last decade. So that's
the biggest one is just that it still exists.
Yep. 603-283-6160, much to the chagrin of people like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, both of whom are against Bitcoin and crypto. Hour 2's coming up. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com. I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week was bookended by shameful Russian atrocities in Ukraine. It started with the world learning of last month's execution of civilians in the city of Bucha and ended with a missile attack on a crowded railway station in the east of the country. At least 50 people died in that incident. At the White House, the reaction from Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
This is yet another horrific atrocity committed by Russia, striking civilians who are trying to evacuate and reach safety.
And President Biden said earlier in the week that he believes Vladimir Putin should face a war crimes tribunal.
We have to gather the information. We have to continue to provide Ukraine with the weapons they need to continue the fight. And we have to gather all the detail so this can be have a war crime trial.
The US and its European allies ratcheted up their sanctions against Russia this week, even targeting Putin's 2 daughters. But the Russian ruble rebounded to pre-war levels. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in an impassioned address to the UN Security Council, warned that if the world body can't guarantee peace in a country like Ukraine, it might as well close down.
If this continues, the countries will rely only on the power of their own arms to ensure their security, and not on international law, not rely on international institutions.
The UN did vote this week to expel Russia from membership in the UN Human Rights Council. History was made in the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris announcing that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson had been confirmed by the US Senate to become the first black woman ever to sit on the US Supreme Court.
The yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and this nomination is confirmed.
There was an extended ovation after she read out that result, but Republicans, with the sole exception of Senator Mitt Romney, walked out of the chamber and refused to recognise the passing of an historic milestone. Britain's Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, and his wife found themselves in the middle of damaging revelations about their financial arrangements. Mr. Sunak's wife now says she will voluntarily pay tax on all her global income in the UK, but the couple also revealed they were legal residents of the United States until last year, and it's unclear whether they properly reported their income in America. The children's author and illustrator David McKee died this week. He created Mr. Ben, the much-beloved animated television character who popped into a costume shop whenever he was in the mood for a magical adventure. He also created Elmer the Patchwork Elephant. David McKee was 87. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Investors on Wall Street will be watching for some key readings on inflation in the upcoming trading week, and earnings season gets underway with quarterly figures due out from some major American banks. With the preview from FSN's business desk in New York, Will Denzelo.
The Federal Reserve raised interest rates last month in a bid to curb rising inflation, but analysts fear the war in Ukraine and the subsequent surge in energy prices will compound inflation fears. On Tuesday, traders will assess March's Consumer Price Index, which is a gauge on the cost of a basket of goods and services. Thursday sees the release of retail sales, which is always a closely watched monthly dataset, as consumer spending is the major driver of the US economy.
Tensions are rising in Shanghai, where a harsh COVID-19 lockdown is leading to food shortages. 3 local officials were fired, accused of failing to fulfill their duties. From FSN's bureau in Beijing, our bureau chief Patrick Falk.
Shanghai is transforming the National Exhibition and Convention Center into the largest facility to house people that are infected. When finished, it's expected to provide as many as 40,000 beds. Close to 40,000 healthcare workers have arrived in the city to help fight the resurgence of the virus and assist with citywide testing. Another round of mass testing started on Wednesday to spot infections and block the transmission chain, but the rising infections are raising concern that the procedures are helping to spread the disease as crowds mingle while waiting to get swabbed.
A big week lies ahead. The first round of the French presidential election takes place on Sunday, with Emmanuel Macron in a tight re-election battle against Marine Le Pen. And we'll track the continuing spread of COVID-19 in Washington, D.C. It has already hit a large number of officials, with the White House conceding on Friday that President Biden might get it. Those stories here and on Twitter at Feature Story. And that is the Week in Review from Feature Story News. Simon Marks reporting.
It's the Onion Radio News. Starbucks begins its sinister Phase 2 of operation. This is Doyle Redland reporting. After a decade of aggressive expansion throughout North America and abroad, Starbucks suddenly and unexpectedly closed its 56,423 worldwide locations today to prepare for what insiders call Phase 2 of the company's long-range plan. Cynthia Valcant, Starbucks head of marketing, made this brief statement at a press conference earlier today.
We have enjoyed furnishing you with coffee-related beverages and are excited about the important role you play in our future plans.
Existing Starbucks franchises across the nation have been shuttered with high-strength titanium, and the well-known Starbucks logo has been slightly altered to present the familiar mermaid figure as a cyclopean mermaid whose all-seeing eye forms the apex of a world-spanning pyramid. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live. We are kicking off the second hour of the program here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're talking overall tonight so far about Shanghai and the insane lockdown that has been going on now for 22 days in some parts of the city of 26 million people. The entire city is now locked down. They initially had said that only half the city would be locked down for 5 days, and then the other half would go in after that 5 days was up. And as far as I understand, the whole place is on lockdown.
No, they just can't make up their mind.
Yeah, well, it didn't go for just 5 days. It's now day number 22.
Who's the guy sitting around going, yeah, man, I think we'll go for another 7 days.
It's I think they're getting
Probably
high
not
on
smoking
power
weed. Yeah.
In this case, but we'll tell you more about it on the way. Of course, your phone calls are welcome. We had somebody call in the last segment that was saying that cryptocurrency is not going to help us, that the government's going to somehow
It already
stop
has
it.
helped and will continue to help and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, I agree. We're going to go to your phone calls and your thoughts, though, to start things out here. Roland is on the line in Washington, listening also in Spokane to KXLY. Go ahead, Roland.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch a little bit on what the last caller was talking about. I think that perhaps what his concerns were in relation to crypto was the fact that the Justice Department was able to recover 64 Bitcoin out of the 75 that were seized in the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack. And it wasn't because crypto could be broken, but it was because that it tends to leave a lot of ghost traces or fingerprints. And so they were able to find out where those transactions were taking place. And that's a little bit of an issue for a lot of people that are looking to crypto to be a helpful thing when it can still be kind of tracked down.
That issue's already been solved. You don't have to use just Bitcoin. There are other cryptos such as Dash, Monero,
Dash is a publicly visible crypto. They do have what they call a private send option with Dash, but it's just ultimately a mixer. It's a very low-tech version of privacy. So if you're looking for ultimate privacy, you want to look at the true privacy coins like Monero. There are other ones. Pirate Chain is another one that a lot of people like. But Roland's not incorrect. The terminology, of course, isn't ghost traces. It's just that's the way Bitcoin is designed. It's designed to be completely trackable. It's totally public. The ledger is available. It goes all the way back to the very beginning of Bitcoin in 2009.
And it has to be by design because the ledger is what provides the trust for the transaction, right? So cryptocurrency is just mathematics applied to trust instead of centralized institutions applied to trust. That's all it is. The trust is, it's backed by math. That's what cryptocurrency is backed by, right?
And they call it trustless because you don't have to trust a third party that like your payment went through. You can see it. That's why. That's another reason it's you can verify yourself. That's why it needs to be public.
But Roland's correct that having it being public has its downsides, and that is that the state can trace cryptocurrency from wallet to wallet to see where it's being held. But whether or not they can actually get their hands on it is still not necessarily a guarantee. The only way they can get crypto, the Bitcoin specifically, that is that let's say they can identify where it is. As long as that Bitcoin is being held in a private owner's wallet that private owner has the keys to, the only way they could get those keys from that private owner is through coercion, by torturing him or somehow finding where he stored those keys.
Social engineering can happen too.
That's possible.
The only times that folks have lost their cryptocurrency due to, quote, hacking, unquote, isn't because cryptocurrency is hackable. It's because people are dumb and they get tricked into giving away stuff like their date of birth and their first dog and their first car, and then people use that to call into customer service and pretend that there's somebody that they're not and get a hold and reset your password, etc., and so on. It can happen to any app. It happens all the time to things other than cryptocurrency. It's because people are dumb.
Roland, anything else you want to share? Go ahead.
No, I appreciate you taking the call. I just want to say that perhaps when I was talking about ghost and fingerprint tracing, that it was poorly articulated on my part, but I totally appreciate you taking my call.
Oh, you did a good job.
You weren't wrong, Roland. It's just the terminology. That's all. You're all good. I appreciate your call tonight, man, and it's definitely an interesting topic, one that deserves people's attention, I think. I appreciate your time. The number here is 603-283-6160. Let's go to Jill in Virginia. Listening on the radio. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, Jill.
Hello. I admit, I really don't understand the idea of Bitcoin very well.
Okay.
I don't really care much.
Yeah, it's not for everybody.
Except actual cash, physical cash, coins that can be held physically in the hand, and paper money provided it's backed by something. But otherwise, I don't understand some kind of stuff that's sent over the internet.
Sure. I would recommend that you look into something like gold backs then, which are a really cool physical form of value that you can you can hand physically.
Jill would love gold backs
to somebody. The downside, of course, to physical cash and gold and things like that is the government can come along and use a gun to put it to your head or whatever and take all of your physical products.
And you can't send it across the world in a second.
That's true too. So they all have their ups and downs.
You can dig a hole somewhere and put it in, but they can take other stuff. If it's in the bank, they can pass some law and automatically wipe it out and stuff like that without even bothering to use it.
Absolutely. And of course, the other downside to cash is that the government is inflating the money supply constantly, so the value of it is constantly going down. So if you're going to hold something,
government should be making money.
Well, I agree.
I don't think
I
it
agree.
should be minting it, and I don't think it should be printing it.
You're absolutely right.
Private companies ought to do it, and the government should. Functions, legitimate functions, are mighty few. Maybe the government should be allowed to print script for members of the military that could be turned into cash at different exchanges. But otherwise, I don't think it should be doing it.
Jill, I appreciate your call tonight. Thanks for sharing your thoughts here. I do agree that the government should not have any role whatsoever in creating money at all.
Yeah, she said the list of legitimate government functions are few. I say that list doesn't exist. There are no legitimate government functions.
There's no reason to ever coerce someone into using your services. It doesn't make sense.
Yep.
If somebody needs your services, then you can show them and prove to them that you're the best guy to do the job.
And then they can hire you voluntarily?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I hope that we can get to a point where people have that viewpoint about the state. Unfortunately, we are very far from that at this point, which is one of the reasons why, of course, the Free State Project exists, for people that do understand that government is evil and that it is coercion and that it's not okay to coerce our neighbors. If you understand the non-aggression principle, you really ought to look into the Free State Project, their website, fsp.org, or if you don't care to join things, just make the move here to New Hampshire and get active with the largest libertarian voluntarist community anywhere on the planet, the most liberty-loving anarchists anywhere on the planet. There's nothing else like it. You definitely owe it to yourself to check this place out. So I want to just go on here with a little bit more about Shanghai from Jared T. Nelson, at Jared T. Nelson on Twitter. He's what looks like an American living in Shanghai. And he says that after 22 days now of lockdown, now there are new restrictions. They cannot leave their apartment to even get the delivery. So they used to be able to leave the apartment to go to a checkpoint to get deliveries from grocers. No more, he says. You can't even leave your apartment door. However, each day, 2 volunteers from each building are allowed outside to collect deliveries for the whole building.
Wow.
He says, I'm a volunteer. We have to wear the full white suit during the process. Mine was just delivered to me. It shows an image of it. And we only have a 2-hour window in the afternoon to go and do this. So if you have a delivery in the morning, for example, of meat, if you're lucky enough to get that, it will sit at the gate until it is our time in the afternoon to get the delivery.
Oh my God.
The temperature in Shanghai right now at 5 p.m. is 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So they're delivering food to you, meat perhaps, in the morning, and then it's sitting there for hours and hours in the sun before you can go pick it up.
Totally competent, all in control government that has quantum computers, and you can't do anything to stop them.
Yeah, exactly. The number is 603-283-6160. A few more comments from Jared Nelson there in Shanghai about what it's actually like right now on day 22 of probably the most insane lockdown on the face of the planet. This is Free Talk Live.
There are basically 2 types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160. I do want to say thanks to Jesse Cruz, who is a Free Talk Live supporter of our AMPS program. And Jesse has supported us at a silver level, which means he's doing at least $5 a month to help us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. That's what AMPS stands for. It's a Patreon, and you can join it as well over at amps.freetalklive.com. That is a URL that will take you straight to the Patreon link. amps.freetalklive.com. Head on over there and join like Jesse Cruz did, and really appreciate the support. It helps us get the message of freedom on more great radio stations around the country and bring new internet listeners on board as well. It's Ian, Bonnie, and the captain in the studio. We're going to go back to your phone calls and thoughts. Robert is in South Carolina. Robert, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to let you know that, well, first of all, my background is that my grandfather was an associate of the Brooklyn Mafia, and in my case, I studied law in Dresden, Germany. Actually, Roman law is what I studied there, beginning in 1992. So the way I see this is that basically you cannot operate a system like this under the government's nose without the government finding out about it, because you need
a system like what?
I mean, a monetary system without the government's knowledge or without the government's permission. It won't work over the long run.
It's already working.
It's
been working
fine.
for 13 years.
Well, not without their knowledge. They know about it, but...
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. As long as they know about it and they're okay with that, then fine. But
well, they're not okay with it.
Well, they are definitely not okay with it.
No, they understand. Hillary Clinton, for instance, back in November made statements to the effect of that they're running out of time and that something needs to be done, basically, about Bitcoin.
Yes, I understand that, but you're still not operating without the government's knowledge and consent.
Well, yeah, we are, actually. When it comes to Monero, the people using Monero are absolutely running without the government's knowledge. The government knows Monero exists, but that's about all they know. They have no idea how many people are using it. They have no idea how many transactions are going on, who's got the most Monero. They don't know anything about who has Monero and who doesn't.
And there's a whole bunch of other wannabe Moneros in development or partially released or have been released recently. So we know that this is a feature that people value. And when that happens, specifically in the cryptocurrency world, it's not going to be too long until it's a default feature.
I hope.
Okay, my grandfather said another thing. He said, as long as two people know a secret, it's not a secret.
So what's
it's
that have
not
to
a
do with
secret.
anything?
Cryptocurrency is not a secret. Don't know why you think that. If you think that we're talking on the radio about something that the government doesn't know about, I don't know why you think that. We never said that it was a secret.
What's the relevance of that statement?
I mean, two partners in a transaction, two contract partners. you have two people exchanging currency, exchanging value, and therefore you have two contract partners. And as long as you have two people, it's not a secret. If you have one person knowing something, it can be a secret. But two people is not a good.
What you don't understand is people can spend Monero without knowing the person that they're doing business with, and without that person knowing who is the person spending the Monero.
Great point. Yeah, there's no obligation. Okay. Either side doesn't necessarily know who sent the transaction in the case of a Monero transaction. Yes, it's true that if you and the captain know one another, and you say, Captain, I need you to send me $10 worth of Monero for blah, 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 and the captain sends you, and then all of a sudden $10 worth of Monero shows up in your wallet, you can reasonably believe that it was the captain who sent you that. But ultimately, you can't really prove it. But certainly if you were dealing with a government agent on the other side of a transaction, then yeah, you might, if there was something illegal going on, then they may still have you in that case. But for the most part, most people don't know jack diddly about Monero because it's completely obscured. And the government hates that about Monero.
Well, two other aspects. I was also a ham radio operator, WP2PRC, and in Germany I was DJ0MCE. And the government does not let you operate radio transmitters, other than CB, without a license and call letters.
You ever heard of pirate radio, pal?
Yeah, you are the kind of person who doesn't do anything without a permission slip. We, on the other hand, are the opposite kind of people. We do whatever we can without asking for permission. That's just the way most people who actually love freedom are wired. And so I know plenty of people who've used two-way radios without asking government permission.
Well, you can do that off the coast as long as you're 3 miles off and without permission.
No, you can do it wherever you want.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you. You could.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, in due time, they're going to catch up with you.
No.
Maybe.
I don't think they're going after people using radios.
They'll catch up with you if you have a 24-hour-a-day FM broadcast going on.
That's critical of government.
Any FM broadcast that's 24/7, eventually the licensed people are going to complain to the FCC and they're going to send agents in to bust you. But that's because you're running 24 hours a day and they can easily triangulate the signal.
Oh no, it's the broadcast police.
The fact
and
is,
this is another person, I'm sorry, that just believes that the government has way more power than it does. And
yeah, that's true.
Lots of people are guilty of it. They just assume, the government runs everything in our lives. They can do anything.
Government is your God.
They're basically God.
That's what he believes. He truly worships the state. Robert, thanks for the call tonight.
Well, and also not only this guy, but the previous caller, speaking in sweeping generalizations, making broad terms, or speaking so broadly that they're illustrating their lack of knowledge about cryptocurrency in general. Again, if you haven't looked into it, like this guy says he was doing all sorts of technical things. Okay, go read about cryptocurrency. You obviously have not done so. Go read the white paper. Go look up some people. Bitcoin.com. Yeah, look up people who have spent their life making it their mission to educate people on cryptocurrencies. One guy I used to follow a lot was Andreas Antonopoulos. He wrote the book on Bitcoin and the Lightning Network and Ethereum too. He's a published author. He knows a whole bunch about it, and that's one of my sources to turn to. So if that helps you, far out.
Yep.
But to call in and say, it's just not going to work because government is government, like you haven't done the homework. Nope. Go do the homework first, then call.
Let's talk to another person that loves the state. It's Sarah in New Mexico. Sarah, we ought to hook her up with Robert. We should ask Robert if he needs a date. Sarah, go ahead.
It's okay. I'm 52 years old. I'm not really interested.
She's on the Tinder.
Did you know that New Mexico is the first ever state? We're the one that started the Crime Stoppers. I just found out.
That's where people can leave anonymous
tips.
Isn't
that pretty historic? And then they had a show about reenacting the.
Have you ever called the police and snitched on somebody?
Well, it's a Crime Stoppers is you could remain anonymous.
Yes, I know exactly what it is.
Yeah, so have you ever called them?
That's why she doesn't want to admit it.
Well, of course I did. I have done many times.
Who have you snitched on?
Because the criminals are very brazen. People are very afraid of the retaliation. If they find out that you're the one that turned them in, they might.
What kind of drug dealers from Cuba are you turning in?
Well, I don't know. Don't jump to a conclusion. Who did you snitch out?
No, I was just saying. She was saying, they'll come after you if you You know,
It depends. Who did you snitch out?
why would she admit it now?
I do not remember, but
You've done it that many times. You've
Well,
just
you know
done
what?
so many snitchings. Thanks for the call tonight.
That'd be a good libertarian thing to do, is do a calling campaign that just calls these snitch lines on politicians, turning them in for all their crimes.
603-283-6160. I'm sure they'll get right on those investigations. 603-283-6160. More coming up about what is happening in the Shanghai lockdown, because there's more to say. It's Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing. To be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week was bookended by shameful Russian atrocities in Ukraine. It started with the world learning of last month's execution of civilians in the city of Bucha and ended with a missile attack on a crowded railway station in the east of the country. At least 50 people died in that incident. At the White House, the reaction from Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
This is yet another horrific atrocity committed by Russia, striking civilians who are trying to evacuate and reach safety.
And President Biden said earlier in the week that he believes Vladimir Putin should face a war crimes tribunal.
We have to gather the information. We have to continue to provide Ukraine with the weapons they need to continue the fight. And we have to gather all the detail so this can be have a war crime trial.
The US and its European allies ratcheted up their sanctions against Russia this week, even targeting Putin's two daughters. But the Russian ruble rebounded to pre-war levels. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in an impassioned address to the UN Security Council, warned that if the world body can't guarantee peace in a country like Ukraine, it might as well close down.
If this continues, the countries will rely only on the power of their own arms to ensure their security, and not on international law, not rely on international institutions.
The UN did vote this week to expel Russia from membership in the UN Human Rights Council. History was made in the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris announcing that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson had been confirmed by the US Senate to become the first black woman ever to sit on the US Supreme Court.
The yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and this nomination is confirmed.
There was an extended ovation after she read out that result, but Republicans, with the sole exception of Senator Mitt Romney, walked out of the chamber and refused to recognise the passing of an historic milestone. Britain's Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, and his wife found themselves in the middle of damaging revelations about their financial arrangements. Mr. Sunak's wife now says she will voluntarily pay tax on all her global income in the UK, but the couple also revealed they were legal residents of the United States until last year, and it's unclear whether they properly reported their income in America. The children's author and illustrator David McKee died this week. He created Mr. Ben, the much-beloved animated television character who popped into a costume shop whenever he was in the mood for a magical adventure. He also created Elmer the Patchwork Elephant. David McKee was 87. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Talk Live. You can join us here at 603-283-6160. You're hearing the sounds of what was called an uprising in Shanghai. Not hundreds, but dozens of people in the streets. I did see some other footage of definitely hundreds of people shouting, pushing, trying to break free.
People yelling from their windows too in this?
Yeah, people are. There was a video earlier we played of people yelling out their windows that you could just hear coming from all over the city.
Do we have translation on what they're saying?
No idea. But there's definitely like men dressed in the full white hazmat suits that are trying to fight with the uprising, basically. These people are hungry, and they are sick and tired of what has been a 22-day lockdown now. So you can only get away with pushing people so far. In China, according to Gundam Northrop on Twitter, agonized locals in some residential districts screamed in horror, quote, "We are starving to death. We haven't eaten for a very long time. We are really starving to death." And then there's other video footage from what is allegedly what they call a logistics warehouse. And somebody somehow got this footage out where it's just a ton of food sitting outside. Spoiling, going bad, just crates knocked over. It's described as the quarantined Shanghai people are starving, but all food are wasted in logistics warehouse. Man-made disaster. So again, centralized food distribution failing miserably, as you would expect governments to fail.
Yeah, I was going to say this is typical. The government takes over any kind of thing. It becomes worse at whatever it is it took over immediately. And it doesn't get better. And if anything, it continues to get worse the longer it has control of it.
I wanted to share a little bit more from Jared T. Nelson, who has done a lengthy description of what is going on. He's in Shanghai. He's on day 22. He says that the restrictions have increased, and now you cannot even leave your building to go and get supplies. You used to be able to go to a checkpoint and get them. Now you cannot do that except for 2 people. So 2 people in the building are volunteers who can go to the checkpoint to retrieve the supplies for the entire building and then presumably deliver them to whichever apartments or whatever. And he points out that if you get the delivery in the morning, you have to wait because you can only go out for 2 hours during the day to retrieve the supplies for your building. In the afternoon. And he says it's 80 degrees outside, so if you get something fresh, like meat, you might as well throw that away because it's been sitting out in the sun. He says last night they took several of the COVID-positive people from our community to a central quarantine site. From what we've heard, they didn't arrive until 2 a.m., and the conditions there are awful. No showers, portable toilets only, no hot water, and, of course, no privacy. He says that was a sad development. We were all hoping that the positive people would be able to quarantine at home. And, of course, if you've seen some of the footage from the quarantine camps, you know they have these massive quarantine camps in China that no one would want to spend time
So they're
in.
Physically removing people who've tested positive.
Correct. Yeah, their goal is to get to, quote, COVID zero, where no one in any community has COVID.
So what's happening to the people who get removed?
They're going to stay in the quarantine camp until further notice.
Well, are they using PCR tests, which...
They mentioned a different test earlier, and I don't remember the name of it. It was a name I had not heard before. Some sort of nucleic acid test or something like that.
They're still freaking out over something that is nothing to freak out about.
Yes, over a light flu or whatever.
Well, at this point, who's freaking out? I don't think that these people living in Shanghai really care, or the average one probably doesn't really care about the virus because they're revolting. And I don't think the government is actually freaking out about a disease.
No,
they're just using it as an excuse.
Well, that's what I mean. Like the government is obviously overstepping. I mean, if they had any bounds.
Yeah. He says, it looks like we're being required to do the administered testing downstairs tonight instead of the home tests we've been doing, including twice yesterday. Everyone will be outside lining up for the tests, but then must go back home immediately and not pick up their deliveries.
This just, I mean, you could change a couple of words around, and instead of the COVID positive, insert, I don't know, somebody of a specific faith, for example. And this reminds me of people getting rounded up. You know what I mean? This has shades of that type of a thing.
He says, after the test, I will come back home, put on my white PPE suit, and go back out to pick up deliveries and bring them back to the people in our building. Because it's too risky for those people to be out to pick up deliveries, those people who are out for the tests in the long line. So he's pointing out the clear contradiction in the policy here. They're taking everyone out, saying, okay, well, you have to quarantine. Okay, now you all have to come down at once and stand in a line together
ridiculous.
And get a test. He says, for my family, we had 3 deliveries that were booked to deliver today. 2 group purchases of meat and seafood and 1 individual purchase of soap and shampoo. All 3 were canceled. But we did get a delivery sent from a friend in another part of the city that has better access to groceries.
This reminds me of the old, cops break in, freeze, nobody move. Okay, up against the wall. And the one guy goes, but I thought you said nobody move, man.
He says the tests we did tonight were our 16th during this lockdown. All 15 previous tests were negative. We recently had been very confident that each test would be negative, but today we feel unsure. More and more people in our community are positive, possibly from these testing events. And so he says it's a difficult situation, but our family's together, we're safe, and we have enough food through constant efforts for the time being. Today was a big step backward for us, but hopefully tomorrow will be better. He says some things you should know about the situation in Shanghai. It is a huge city. By the way, I did look up the numbers. 26 million puts it at number 3 as far as world
largest
populations.
City.
It is only less than Tokyo with 37 million and Delhi, India at 31.
I mean, the government of China here, if they just showed up with a bunch of gas cans and some matches, would probably have about the same effect that they're having.
What do you mean?
Well, all they're doing is throwing fuel on the fire, right? They're exacerbating the problem instead of fixing it.
And they don't really care, right?
Obviously.
Something for them to do.
They're just following orders. They're just following orders.
He says, our situation is bad, but a lot of people are much worse. Things can be absurd, but also true. We can get cake easily, but not meat and fruit, he says.
Time to invent meat cake.
Yeah.
Let the meat cake.
So it's an absolutely insane situation, and you can see some of these videos. Just search Twitter for Shanghai, and you'll find video after video. But try searching the mainstream media for Shanghai, and it's just like generic, maybe a generic story about how they're in lockdown. And
crickets.
Some dog got killed accidentally by one worker, even though we saw footage of multiple dogs dead on the streets being handled by multiple fully hazmat-suited workers. They're allegedly, according to people that are on the streets, they're killing people's dogs.
Well, there's certainly not much about the forced organ harvesting that's going on, that's for sure.
Yeah, you had something to say about that, Captain. Do you have a story regarding that? If so, bring it up. We're going to talk first to Major Payne in Michigan. You're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, Captain, I don't think most people caught that. I thought that was pretty funny, 101 ways to walk your dog.
Yeah, I try and slide some humor in there every now and again when nobody's paying attention. You're quick on it, though.
It was a quickie. You had to be listening tight. But, yeah, I remember back in, I think it was the late 70s, early 80s. You remember those fur-lined snorkel parkas that they sold, the green ones with the fuzzy hood? You zipped it all the way up and you were looking out this fur-lined tube. You remember those coats?
No.
No.
They were famous for Arctic explorers and whatnot because they just gave you this tunnel.
I'm not sure what you're getting to, Major. Stand by. We'll continue here in moments. The number 603-283-6160.
Sounds like a Snuggie.
That's 603.
A wedgie?
283-6160. You can join us here, whether you want to comment on Shanghai or whatever's going on where you are, because if they get away with this in Shanghai, they can certainly get away with it in a lot of the rest of the planet, and most of it they've already gotten away with. It's Free Talk Live.
If you're looking for work, the person you are applying to may be even more nervous than you are. And the way things are now, your references have never been more important. Here are 3 tips. First, know that employers are checking. Every hire is under the microscope these days. Second, they won't just be checking references you provide. Figure that all of your ex-employers will get a call and be asked, would you hire him or her again? Third, assume you will be Googled. So before you apply, remove all those party animal photos from your Facebook page. Even if you're not in the job market, effective communication skills have never been more important, with money and attention so scarce now. For more tips for job seekers and getting better results in all your day-to-day communication, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live.
When you speak of the federal government, I can tell you a few things about it because I survived 34 years of it before I retired 2 years ago.
Ew.
And
Sorry to hear about that.
my sanity.
Congratulations.
Who did you work for?
I worked for the Department of Defense. It's a criminal enterprise from top to bottom. There was unethical behavior going on there. There were people doing criminal things. I mean, outright larceny, graft. I could just go on.
Yeah, and that's just your bureaucracy. It's the same way everywhere else in every other government department.
And I tell you, this is a microcosm. If it's that way where I was, you know the entire federal government's that way from the very top to the very bottom.
When we talk to former police officers, they've told us that usually
I did that too for 7 years out there.
They've told us that in their experience, usually the worst rise up through the ranks. Would you say that's accurate from your experience?
Absolutely.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Bonnie.
And the Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass is here.
Don't forget, you can join us online over at freetalklive.com. The features are free. We have a social media platform that is run by us, so it's not some sort of big tech mega corporation that's involved. It is an open source, self-hosted, federated system called Mastodon, and you can go and join our version of it over at social.freetalklive.com. That is social.freetalklive.com. I want to go back to the phones here and then more on what's going on in Shanghai, the insane lockdown that has, for many in the city, lasted 22 days, so more than 3 weeks now. We go to back to Michigan, where Major Payne is on the line. Major, I'm not sure what you were driving at. Go ahead with your thoughts.
All right. Let me give you guys a visual of this coat. You guys all remember Kenny from South Park, right? I was all snugged up in that hood. Well, imagine that hood with just a little longer snorkel on it, and it's all trimmed in with this fine wolf coyote-looking fur.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
the Chinese were selling us these coats for probably 10 years, and then PETA got wind that these were dog. The hair.
Oh.
The trim on. Yeah. They were German Shepherds and, whatever they could raise that looked like a coyote or something.
Well, I don't like German Shepherds, so that's
Did
fine.
you wear a coat of their fur?
Yes.
Oh,
German Shepherds
Just to
are
scare them
awesome.
when they're around me.
German Shepherds are awesome.
I knew Captain thought that, but...
As far as the infections being spread through the testing, I remember when this thing first busted out and they were wanting to shove a swab up everybody's nose.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Well, somebody grabbed one and ran out of the testing facility, and they whacked it in half and tested it. And sure enough, what it would take to give you COVID was inside the swab.
Interesting
and they wanted to jam it
claims.
halfway into your brain.
Thanks, Major, for the call tonight. Let's go to someone calling themselves Anonymous, calling from Washington State, listening in the Spokane area, I presume. Go ahead, Anonymous.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the Havana syndrome and
What
how
is that?
60 Minutes had done. They weren't really quite sure. I'm going to go ahead and call it out as DEW, which is a direct energy weapon.
Oh, okay.
And there's a lot of people being affected by it.
Direct
Whether they
energy
really
weapon.
know-
So would this be like something that the police would use at a protest to
Yes, correct.
make somebody
Correct.
feel like their chest is burning or something like that? Okay.
Correct.
And where
Or to
are
cause,
people being affected?
even to cause, excuse me, hold on, or even to cause complete entire crowds to drop.
Okay.
Okay, and where are these people that you said are being affected by this?
There's all over the place. It depends on when you were on the internet, look back into 2012.
Just for our listeners who don't have any idea what we're talking about, Havana syndrome. Havana syndrome is an alleged set of medical symptoms with unknown causes experienced mostly abroad by U.S. government officials and military personnel. Symptoms range in severity from pain and ringing in the ears to cognitive difficulties, and were first reported in 2016 by U.S. and Canadian embassy staff in Havana, Cuba, which is why it's called Havana syndrome.
Okay.
So there's mysterious ailments.
No, this isn't just mysterious ailments. These are things that come and go. We're talking about enough of an electromagnetic frequency to change heart rates, which affect people who have had heart transplants and stuff like that.
So are you? What is it
enough
that's
to make-
inspired you to bring this up tonight? Are you suffering from this?
Yeah, I have been hit with it several times. I would agree to help the military explain to our local sheriff, Ozzie Knevinich, about how direct energy weapons work.
So you
because
work for the
of
military?
DEW factor. No, I went through a military tribunal when I was 13 for being raped and molested.
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm coming out really strong right now, and this is what I was meant to do. This is for
So let me just see if I'm following you. You're saying that you believe the military is targeting you as a victim of this directed energy weapon?
I am being targeted not just by the military on certain levels, but and the human work factor. They're hitting there right now.
They're hitting you right now?
Yeah, because I'm in a mental hospital.
Oh.
And I've been trying to find ways to get help out of this.
How did you end up in the mental hospital?
I'm a civilian. I am not They used it on me to try and show some executive from Disney how they're able to control people.
How do you know
in
that?
certain areas for parks. How do I know that?
Yeah. How do you know
I do
that
massive
Disney-
amounts of reading. I do massive amounts of reading for Showtime. I do massive amounts of reading for a lot of different shows.
So how would that reveal
what
that
I
the
used to
executives
do
of
in the
Disney
2000s, let
are...
me finish. What I used to do in the 2000s was data mining for Chernobyl. and how all that came about.
Chernobyl, the defunct
yeah.
nuclear power facility?
Right. And remember they just did a whole show about Chernobyl on HBO?
No, I don't watch
Did
much
you go
TV.
to Chernobyl?
No, I was not allowed to go to Chernobyl, but one of my best friends is from Chernobyl, and they were there. Actually, it's called Kiev, not just Chernobyl. Chernobyl is not a city or a state or a country. It is the piece of property that they're fighting over between Russia and the Ukraine.
I thought Chernobyl was the place that melted down. I thought that was the name of them.
Congratulations. Why don't you go look on it? Its closest nearest city is Kiev.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you worked for the Ukrainian government, or
no? I was a Girl Friday for somebody who was a rear admiral in the Navy.
What is a Girl Friday?
I helped him with data input, data output. I was one of the first people to use Google for direct data mining back in the year 2000, 2001.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get a handle on what you're saying here. So you worked for you weren't in the military, but you worked
I did not work for. I am a private volunteer.
A volunteer? Why would you volunteer your time to assist with the Chernobyl?
To clean up of the web of Chernobyl.
To clean it up. What do you mean by that?
You guys understand the web is in certain parts, right? There's dark web, there's light web, there's kid web, even. And they're making sure right now that
never heard of that one. I've heard of the dark web before, and I know that there's that which is not the dark web, which they tend to call the clear web. I've never heard of kid web, though.
Oh, it's called clear web? Oh, wow, okay. Well, kid web, I would say,
ClearNet.
Clear channel radio, different. Oh, hold on. I'm struggling right now, really, to get my thoughts together, and you guys just splattered them all over the place. I called to talk about Havana syndrome.
Yes.
And how somebody hacked into a DOD site and exposed all these things to a bunch of GP, which I just called general public.
Okay.
General public.
Mm-hmm.
GP. Okay, because we are not the person who I am, and I'm asked you to call me a specific thing for those reasons. Because
I'm getting a little bit lost here, Anonymous.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
Why were you put in the mental
question.
facility?
Because I threw a phone out my window.
Your car window? Your home window?
My home window onto another roof. Because somebody left a Bible out there. Don't worry about it.
Why would that get you put into a mental facility?
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm asking. Why am I here?
How long have you been there?
Here? I've been here almost 3 weeks now.
Okay.
And I haven't been able to be online.
They took you against your will, I presume, right?
This was my computer.
This was an involuntary commitment, as they call it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now, in most
Actually,
states,
it was voluntary at first because I didn't understand why I kept having these glitches. I call them glitches. And
so you voluntarily admitted yourself into a mental facility?
No.
Okay, you just said you did.
I agreed to go with the ambulance, and from the ambulance, they put me in the mental hospital, not from me agreeing to go.
Okay. Have you had any kind of court hearing since they have put you in there?
I have another one coming up this week.
So you've had you've had a court hearing, and the judge refused to let you out of the facility?
Right.
Okay. And did they say why?
This is what I'm saying. I believe a lot of people like myself who have had these direct energy attacks due to us not following along with the government narrative that they want us to follow along with.
Yeah. It's an interesting theory, and thank you, Anonymous, for the call tonight. There are a lot of people that are, paranoid about this kind of stuff. And it's like, for all the people that I know that are anti-government, I don't know a single one of them that have been targeted by these directed energy
also, I don't know a lot of people who are anti-government who volunteered to work with them. It's just like if you volunteer to work with them, they might do crazy stuff to you, and I could believe it.
I do wish her the best at getting out of the facility, though. It sucks when people are trapped against their will.
Yeah, good luck.
There's more coming up here. Hour number 3 is on the way. You can join us on Free Talk Live. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week was bookended by shameful Russian atrocities in Ukraine. It started with the world learning of last month's execution of civilians in the city of Bucha and ended with a missile attack on a crowded railway station in the east of the country. At least 50 people died in that incident. At the White House, the reaction from Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
This is yet another horrific atrocity committed by Russia, striking civilians who are trying to evacuate and reach safety.
And President Biden said earlier in the week that he believes Vladimir Putin should face a war crimes tribunal.
We have to gather the information. We have to continue to provide Ukraine with the weapons they need to continue the fight. And we have to gather all the detail so this can be have a war crime trial.
The US and its European allies ratcheted up their sanctions against Russia this week, even targeting Putin's 2 daughters. But the Russian ruble rebounded to pre-war levels. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in an impassioned address to the UN Security Council, warned that if the world body can't guarantee peace in a country like Ukraine, it might as well close down.
If this continues, the countries will rely only on the power of their own arms to ensure their security, and not on international law, not rely on international institutions.
The UN did vote this week to expel Russia from membership in the UN Human Rights Council. History was made in the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris announcing that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson had been confirmed by the US Senate to become the first black woman ever to sit on the US Supreme Court.
The yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and this nomination is confirmed.
There was an extended ovation after she read out that result, but Republicans, with the sole exception of Senator Mitt Romney, walked out of the chamber and refused to recognise the passing of an historic milestone. Britain's Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, and his wife found themselves in the middle of damaging revelations about their financial arrangements. Mr. Sunak's wife now says she will voluntarily pay tax on all her global income in the UK, but the couple also revealed they were legal residents of the United States until last year, and it's unclear whether they properly reported their income in America. The children's author and illustrator David McKee died this week. He created Mr. Ben, the much-beloved animated television character who popped into a costume shop whenever he was in the mood for a magical adventure. He also created Elmer the Patchwork Elephant. David McKee was 87. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Investors on Wall Street will be watching for some key readings on inflation in the upcoming trading week, and earnings season gets underway with quarterly figures due out from some major American banks. With the preview from FSN's business desk in New York, Will Denzelo.
The Federal Reserve raised interest rates last month in a bid to curb rising inflation, but analysts fear the war in Ukraine and the subsequent surge in energy prices will compound inflation fears. On Tuesday, traders will assess March's Consumer Price Index, which is a gauge on the cost of a basket of goods and services. Thursday sees the release of retail sales, which is always a closely watched monthly dataset, as consumer spending is the major driver of the US economy.
Tensions are rising in Shanghai, where a harsh COVID-19 lockdown is leading to food shortages. 3 local officials were fired, accused of failing to fulfill their duties. From FSN's bureau in Beijing, our bureau chief Patrick Falk.
Shanghai is transforming the National Exhibition and Convention Center into the largest facility to house people that are infected. When finished, it's expected to provide as many as 40,000 beds. Close to 40,000 healthcare workers have arrived in the city to help fight the resurgence of the virus and assist with citywide testing. Another round of mass testing started on Wednesday to spot infections and block the transmission chain, but the rising infections are raising concern that the procedures are helping to spread the disease as crowds mingle while waiting to get swabbed.
A big week lies ahead. The first round of the French presidential election takes place on Sunday, with Emmanuel Macron in a tight re-election battle against Marine Le Pen. And we'll track the continuing spread of COVID-19 in Washington, D.C. It has already hit a large number of officials, with the White House conceding on Friday that President Biden might get it. Those stories here and on Twitter at Feature Story. And that is the Week in Review from Feature Story News. Simon Marks reporting.
The only nation where this regularly happens concludes that there's no way to prevent this. A college rape victim is pretty thrilled about recounting her assault to a faculty committee, and the nation's depressed individuals march on the Atlantic Ocean. This is the Onion Week in Review. Secretary of Veterans Affairs Eric Shinseki announced plans this week to improve healthcare for American veterans with a new $500 million state-of-the-art waiting room. The 150,000 square foot complex will reportedly feature a wide selection of magazines, 2 water coolers, and receptionists who will immediately give veterans vague answers about how long they can expect to sit there before receiving inadequate healthcare. And in this week's commentary, a local man finds owning a cat is a great way to meet women who magically appear in your living room. In other news, a new study finds employee morale drastically improves after watching a coworker throw a fit. A wise oracle proclaims to all at a barbecue that he felt a raindrop, and an elderly man is hailed as alert.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Coming up, we'll tell you about what the Chinese are doing to the Uyghur Muslims. I know, Captain, you had a story about that on the way here. We still have to get to that. But first, a little bit more about the insane lockdown going on in Shanghai on day number 22. In many parts of the city, the entire city is locked down. The guy we were reading some of the posts from earlier, Jared T. Nelson, he's on Twitter and has been locked down with his family of 4 there. Has been talking about it over the last several days in detail. He did show a map from the Chinese government with all these little points on it of red and orange and yellow colorations. And of course, the red means it's, a lot of COVID cases, and then so on, less and less. And so in theory, he says that if an area gets to 0 cases, then they'll let people out of their homes. But of course, this originally what was intended to be a 5-day lockdown is now going on its 4th week at this point. With you tonight, by the way, it's Ian.
And Bonnie.
And the captain.
And we've been sharing with you some of the sounds of Shanghai from videos that people are capturing from inside their apartments because they're not allowed to even leave. Initially, they were allowed to leave their apartment to go to a checkpoint and retrieve groceries that they might have ordered if the groceries came. But now they're not even allowed out of their house with the exception of 2 2 people per building who are asked to volunteer to retrieve everyone else's groceries for them. That's the current status as of the last 24 hours. They changed the rules on them. But we played some of the audio, which one of them was absolutely just harrowing, with screams and howls coming from all over the city. It was nighttime, so sound travels easier at night. Somebody recording out their balcony, and just the noise, the cacophony of just human suffering coming across was absolutely stunning. But it's not just humans that are suffering now, it's also animals. And here's another clip. You've got 5 dogs tearing at what I presume to be a corpse of a cat in the streets in Shanghai. According to the caption, these are abandoned pets. Why were they abandoned? Well, because their owners were taken to quarantine centers.
Oh, good Lord.
So for those dogs that haven't been put to death on the streets by the Chinese so-called authorities, which we were also talking about that earlier, they are apparently just killing people's pets out in the streets due to COVID. Those that haven't been put to death, many of them are simply running wild in the streets and killing each other now at this point because there's no one around to feed them. Normally, dogs get fed by people who care about dogs. Even ones that are on the streets, people will stop, right? And they'll get some dog food, they'll put it down, they'll feed the dogs. But there's nothing like that right now.
Man's best friend or not, animals are self-sufficient when the chips are down.
Yeah, they're going to do what they can to survive. And then there's another video here of men with these hazmat suits on. It's saying here, Scott _Wang_ on Twitter says, dogs are taken away by someone from the Shanghai government. So brutal. We don't know what they'll do to these dogs, but the old news that these people killed animals during this pandemic period in Shanghai has already told the truth. And then what you see happening in this video is these 2 men, they have like one of those little bucket trucks. I don't know they kind of look like a motorized wagon, basically a long wagon, like a 3-wheeler. And in the back of this, they're prodding what appears to be a live dog with these metal tongs and dragging the thing across the pavement to put him into this vehicle with other dogs in it right now. And they're being as awful as they can be to these animals. It's just absolutely horrifying. There's more than one video now. You look in the mainstream media and you'll see stories about how one worker abused an animal in Shanghai and the government says he went too far. But the reality of it is this is policy. It is policy to torture and abuse these dogs and take them from people's homes and put them to death. That's what's happening in Shanghai, and there's more than one video showing it.
It's horrible.
So that's what I have for Shanghai. There's a little bit more, but let's get into what's going on with the Uyghurs. Captain, you've got an update for us.
So previously on Free Talk Live, we talked about the Uyghurs, which are I believe a religion, if I'm not mistaken, a specific subset of a religion.
They're Muslim.
Yep. And how the Chinese government had been specifically targeting them, shades of genocide.
Putting them in re-education camps.
Right. And then out of those stories came some stories of some of those folks who had been put into these re-education camps dying for unknown reasons, and some investigation...
Or never coming back.
Some investigation showed that they were likely being harvested for organs, right? And because, nobody seems to care about this particular subset of, these religious people, that it was hugely underreported. Well... this is from a website called, and I've never been here before, but it's called victimsofcommunism.org.
Okay.
From April 4th, Chinese transplant surgeons executed prisoners by heart extraction, a new study finds.
Yikes.
So...
If that's the way you die, that's really terrifying. If they don't mean that they executed them and then took their heart. I mean, it's horrible to get killed.
Yeah, you're saying they might pull out the heart live while the person's alive? Oh, my God.
Because that's what it makes it sound like by that headline, executed by heart transplant.
Today, a new research report on China's system of organ harvesting, authored by Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, China studies fellow and PhD candidate in political science at the Australian National University, Matthew P. Robertson, and Dr. Jacob Levy, director of heart transplantation unit at the Shiva Medical Center in Israel, was published in the American Journal of Transplantation. The full report they have a link to in this article. Together, the report authors examined over 120,000 Chinese language medical publications and uncovered evidence that medical professionals in the PRC removed organs from living humans for the purposes of transplants, in the process killing them.
Oh, my God.
Well, you're not going to survive a heart removal, that's for sure.
Many of the condemned are political prisoners and prisoners of conscience, according to the study. The analyzed papers illustrate how healthcare professionals become executioners. The examples uncovered in this report detail highly irregular practices by the surgeons while the operations take place, indicating that their subjects were still alive throughout the procedure. The study identified 71 papers describing procedures carried out in 56 hospitals in 33 different cities across 15 provinces, involving 348 medical professionals or researchers.
It's a policy if it's in that many places simultaneously.
It certainly is. I mean, you can't call it anything else.
Not a freak occurrence.
These papers included cases where donors were intubated after they were declared brain dead, were intubated immediately before their organs were extracted, or were ventilated by mask only.
And people here in the United States think that it's impossible or just a conspiracy theory that the hospitals were the ones killing people during COVID by prescribing them remdesivir and giving them the lung breather machine when they don't need it. What is that machine? Respirator.
The respirator, right?
When they don't need it. People think, oh, a doctor would never do that.
Well, they did.
Looks like in China, they've gone well beyond that. And
the practice of forced organ harvesting, which, in my opinion, should never even be a term, forced organ harvesting, breaks two long-established taboos in medicine. The dead donor rule, which forbids extracting transplant organs from living donors, and the injunction against physicians participating in executions. These practices violate medical ethics and assault human dignity and the sanctity of life.
Well, the physicians are going to do what they're told when Chinese agents with guns come in and say, you do what we say or you get put to death.
especially if for probably centuries, I don't know, the medical establishment has been controlled by the government.
Only under a predatory government with little transparency, accountability, or rule of law could such practices persist.
There's more on the way here. The number, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. We're focusing on China here tonight, but of course your calls are welcome about whatever is on your mind. This is Free Talk Live.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market,
non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And Bonnie.
And the captain.
And we're talking about both humans and animals being tortured and murdered in China. They, of course, have been torturing and killing the Chinese Uyghur Muslims for a long time. They're people that tend to live, I believe, in the sort of the northwestern section of China.
I think
over
that's what I've heard.
Kazakhstan and that direction. They've been rounding them up. They've been putting them in so-called re-education camps, and some of them never come back. And according to what you're sharing here tonight, Captain, some of them are actually having their hearts removed while they're still alive, and then presumably those hearts are being used to give transplants to Communist Party officials or something like that.
That's the presumption.
Yeah. Unless they're eating them or something even more bizarre.
Well, and this article doesn't specifically mention the Uyghurs. So I don't know
this could be anybody.
How widespread this is. The first time we talked about it here on Free Talk Live it was specific to the Uyghurs.
Well, that's
saying prisoners. So.
Right. Now it's saying prisoners and
yeah, because you did say it was like 15 provinces, and I don't know how many provinces there are in China, but
so my guess is they had a beta program, they conducted with the Uyghurs, and that went so well that they've expanded that now to the general population, and so now they're harvesting organs from, anybody the state doesn't like, apparently.
16, you said 15 provinces. The People's Republic of China has 31. And it's kind of like the United States, where the states are larger to the west.
Yeah.
Same thing's true in China. So the western areas of China, which is where the Muslims tend to live, are much larger provinces. So if there's 15, we're definitely talking about just prisoners in general here at this point.
So the article continues, China in recent years has developed one of the largest and most sophisticated systems of organ transplantation in the world, with wait times far shorter than most in other countries. Wonder why. The PRC maintains that as of now, all organ transplants are from willing donors, but the numbers appear to be falsified, according to Robertson and Levy's previous research.
Oh, God.
Moreover, hospitals continue to advertise short wait times for organ transplants, and websites continue to advertise commercial organ transplants to tourists. This suggests that voluntary donors are likely not the only source of organs at present.
Wow, they're just like calling up the prison and have them send somebody over fresh.
There's one thing to be said for like the free market, right? If you get two of a thing, right, and maybe you give one away, it helps a guy, or maybe they're willing to pay you for it.
Like a kidney or something?
Yeah, something like that. Like, there's one thing to be said for that type of a transaction. It's a private transaction, completely voluntary. Everybody knows the risks up front. You've been checked out, that kind of a thing. There's one thing to be said for that. But it's a whole different thing for people to have organs harvested from them involuntarily and then, of course, dying as a result.
Well, we're not talking about a free market here. We're talking about China, which is a communist country.
Correct. And then, of course, they're advertising. So they're acting in a market way by advertising.
Right.
That, come to China. We'll get you the organ you need. Oh, you need that spleen? You need that heart? Yeah, come on over. We got it for you.
Yeah.
Come on down to used wands, that's WON, not JUAN, right? To wands, used organs. These findings, anyway, have dire implications not just for the healthcare system in China, but for the world. China has become a center of medical tourism, broadcasting advertisements for guaranteed, ready-to-go transplants in many languages. In no other country could someone expect to order an organ and have it ready when they arrive. In addition, China's increasing influence on world healthcare institutions means that doctors in the West may unknowingly become implicated in covering up Beijing's atrocities.
How's that?
If the COVID pandemic has shown anything, then it's the implications of China having a leadership role in the World Health Organization and other such international healthcare bodies. Oftentimes doctors will work with other doctors across borders and that type of a thing. So if a recommendation is made to, Bob, who needs he needs a heart, right? And doctor, somewhere outside of China is like, go talk to my buddy in China.
Without knowing
and
the source of
the source of it. The guy goes through with it. He may get, a
kickback.
Yeah, I mean, but then like the guy needing the operation, may have his life saved, but at the expense of somebody else.
It does bring up the interesting question about what about the marketplace? I mean, what other sort of innovations would we see as far as if people were free to actually sell their organs? Would we see people voluntarily choosing, let's say that they're otherwise not well.
Yeah.
And they are told, hey, look, you've got a terminal illness, but your organs are otherwise good. Like the illness isn't affecting them or something like that. If you'll go ahead and consent to being offed now rather than dying in 6 months, we can use your organs to, give to whomever and we'll pay your family or something like that. So there might be some sort of arrangements that could incentivize
cover
people
the funeral expenses or, put a nice chunk for a college fund or something like that.
Yeah, and maybe some people on death row would choose, to have themselves chopped up rather than stay in death row because it's a pretty awful circumstance. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be as hard as people think it is to actually get people to volunteer for this. Although they're under coercion.
Death row, of course, involves the state. But if there were market. If the market exists, the market will provide. So there obviously is a market for this type of a thing.
Now, of course, the best solution is to just grow the organs.
Right.
Have some sort of a stem cell cloning or whatever. I mean, we're probably pretty close to that happening.
One would think so, yet we've done stories here on Free Talk Live about recently doctors transplanting a pig's heart into a human.
He died, from what I understand.
Yeah. But, it did work for a minute.
Sure.
So, the medical folks, for lack of a better term, are figuring stuff like this out, would it be better if the free market were at work? Yes, of course it would, as long as it were, following ethics, following some sort of, principled stance, right?
And if everything was out in the open, like people knew exactly where it was coming from, then the unethical people wouldn't make it in the free market.
Right.
That's a good point.
Right. So
this is probably just the state saying, oh, here's a way to reduce our prison costs. Yeah. For every single person that needs some sort of organ, we can cut down our prison population by 1, and from their perspective, everybody wins.
The Ambassador Andrew Bremberg, VOC president and CEO, said of the report, the CCP's organ harvesting practices exposed by this report clearly violate basic medical ethics and are an assault on human dignity. The U.S. and all who profess to believe in medical ethics must take action to hold the CCP accountable and demand greater transparency.
It's just the latest assault on human dignity. I mean, right now they're locking down 26 million people in Shanghai. They're abducting and murdering people's animals. It's just absolutely insane what's going on over there. If you want to weigh in, you can join us here. 603-283-6160.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week was bookended by shameful Russian atrocities in Ukraine. It started with the world learning of last month's execution of civilians in the city of Bucha and ended with a missile attack on a crowded railway station in the east of the country. At least 50 people died in that incident. At the White House, the reaction from Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
This is yet another horrific atrocity committed by Russia, striking civilians who are trying to evacuate and reach safety.
And President Biden said earlier in the week that he believes Vladimir Putin should face a war crimes tribunal.
We have to gather the information. We have to continue to provide Ukraine with the weapons they need to continue the fight. And we have to gather all the detail so this can be have a war crime trial.
The US and its European allies ratcheted up their sanctions against Russia this week, even targeting Putin's 2 daughters. But the Russian ruble rebounded to pre-war levels. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in an impassioned address to the UN Security Council, warned that if the world body can't guarantee peace in a country like Ukraine, it might as well close down.
If this continues, the countries will rely only on the power of their own arms to ensure their security, and not on international law, not rely on international institutions.
The UN did vote this week to expel Russia from membership in the UN Human Rights Council. History was made in the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris announcing that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson had been confirmed by the US Senate to become the first black woman ever to sit on the US Supreme Court.
The yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and this nomination is confirmed.
There was an extended ovation after she read out that result, but Republicans, with the sole exception of Senator Mitt Romney, walked out of the chamber and refused to recognise the passing of an historic milestone. Britain's Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, and his wife found themselves in the middle of damaging revelations about their financial arrangements. Mr. Sunak's wife now says she will voluntarily pay tax on all her global income in the UK, but the couple also revealed they were legal residents residents of the United States until last year, and it's unclear whether they properly reported their income in America. The children's author and illustrator David McKee died this week. He created Mr. Ben, the much-beloved animated television character who popped into a costume shop whenever he was in the mood for a magical adventure. He also created Elmer the Patchwork Elephant. David McKee was 87. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Bonnie.
And the captain.
We will take your calls and thoughts about whatever's on your mind. Also want to invite you to ForkFest, the 6th annual ForkFest. It's a decentralized libertarian camping event that happens in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire at Rogers Campground, same place it has always been. It'll be the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival this year, and the Porcupine Freedom Festival is oversold at this point. They have sold more than the number of tickets than they sold last year. They've gone past their limit. I don't know when they're going to cut off the sales, but it's probably soon.
I thought last year they were complaining that there were too many people there taking up the facilities, stuff like that, so I didn't know they were going to sell more tickets this year.
They are going to sell more. I don't know whether the cutoff has happened yet. It's going to be a huge event. There's definitely no doubt about that. Apparently, there's now an aftermarket. So
yeah, I was going to say they did invent a secondary market last year when they did sell out, so to speak. They had a problem with like folks trying to sell their tickets to other people and those people getting in. So they developed it kind of mimics the sport markets, right? When you try and buy a ticket to a sporting event, they're all sold out. You go to the secondary market. It's kind of like that, where people who bought their tickets for the Porcupine Freedom Festival and I can't go now. I changed it, or like my job says I can't. Whatever, family.
Something comes up.
Something comes up, and so now there's a secondary market for folks who maybe didn't get in on the original sale. They can go to the secondary market. I think they facilitate that all through social media. On like the Facebook, I think.
I don't know. But you can see that over at porkfest.com on the tickets page. They've got links there. But you don't need a ticket for ForkFest. It's just open. All you got to do is have a camping site, an RV site, or a motel room with Rogers Campground. And you can do that by contacting them directly at Rogers Campground. They've got a website. They've got a phone number. You just get your campsite, and you're good to go for ForkFest. Make sure you get it between June 27th and July 3rd. That's when most of the ForkFesters will be there. But again, it's a completely unofficial, decentralized event. There's no organizer. There's no bureaucracy. There's no central community or committee or whatever. So it's just whatever it is you want to make happen is what happens.
And that means fun.
It does. It also means it's a little more laid back. There's not any structure per se. Unless you want to create some, that's up to you. Go to forkfest.party and you can connect with other ForkFest attendees there on the Telegram or Matrix chat rooms or the ForkFest forum. Forkfest.party. It's June 27th through July 3rd. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Captain, you had a little bit more you wanted to share from the story about people taking organs in China from presumably non-consenting parties and then transferring them into the bodies of people who are needing an operation.
Who have paid.
Yeah.
And sometimes they've been advertised to for this specific service.
And we believe these tend to be prisoners that they are taking, but there's not a whole lot of detail about where the organs are coming from.
Yeah, prisoners or folks the government doesn't like and is thrown, into some sort of a camp or whatever. So this is all based on some reporting that had been put together by a couple of people. The report builds on previous research into Beijing's forced organ harvesting scheme, including the China Tribunal, an independent tribunal that in 2019 determined that Beijing was engaging in this atrocity. It also intersects with the work on genocide in Xinjiang after millions of Uyghur Muslims became subject to extra-legal incarceration. Thus far, Beijing has refused to engage with work done on this issue by witnesses and other qualified researchers, and officials have not provided serious explanations that would refute the evidence.
Why should they? Yeah. It's not like, anyone's going to invade them over this. They're China.
Dr. Arthur Kaplan, MIDI professor of bioethics and director of Division of Medical Ethics at the NYU Grossman School of Medicine, stated about the report, "It has been clear for some time that human rights abuses in the field of transplantation have been ongoing in the PRC. Mm-hmm. The volume of transplants done there is not consistent with voluntary donation rates from cadaver sources. Mm. Many still argue, however, that hard evidence of the killing of persons to derive organs for transplant is missing."
Sure. How are you going to get that?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, if there's a doctor in China who has the morality to where he wants to reveal this program, right? Because the doctors know what's going on.
Yeah.
And he does. Well, okay, he's going to die.
He's going to be next.
He's going to be next,
right?
Yep.
They're going to snatch him up as quickly as possible and do everything they can to delete whatever evidence that he has of it. So whatever evidence comes out, it's going to come and it's going to go.
Congratulations, Mr. Smith. You've got the spleen of a doctor.
Yeah. It's just, most of these people, they don't want to put their careers on the line. They don't want to put their lives on the line. They certainly don't want to endanger their families because, I don't know if they have this same policy in China, but of course in North Korea, they're infamous for punishing people's families for what the individual has done. So even though the family may not know anything about what's going on, they may target them simply because they know it will keep the other person in line.
This careful review by Robertson and Levy provides incontrovertible proof that healthcare personnel have been involved in obtaining and transplanting vital organs from individuals who did not meet the criteria for declaring them dead. Organ removal has been, as this study shows, the cause of death for some where transplants occurred. This abhorrent conduct is a grievous violation of medical ethics, human rights, and basic human dignity. Killing for parts cannot be accepted as a part of the field of transplantation by governments, NGOs, healthcare providers, scientific journals, or the general public.
The problem is, if governments accept it, then there's nothing you can do about it.
Well,
if the governments are doing it.
Hopefully these doctors from other countries start hearing about this and stop suggesting their patients go there.
Well, and that's the other thing. When folks, are talking about, government this, government that, government necessary, and all that kind of thing, most of the most horrific things that have occurred in human history have occurred by government. Not by individuals acting individually, but by whole gangs of people hallucinating themselves the authority to do these horrific things because it's legitimized because we put some uniforms on some people.
Wasn't it hundreds of millions were killed by governments in the 20th century alone?
120 million?
I don't know, a couple hundred million, but whatever. Who's counting?
Democide.
How long is a serial killer going to be able to get away with killing people and harvesting their organs? How many people could they do a year and get away with it? But this has 300, I think he said, practitioners involved. Who knows how many individual cases of alive organ harvesting they've done?
Well, here's the other thing. It's like, okay, yeah, the point earlier, I think, Bonnie, you made it was, well, maybe doctors will stop sending people to China for these transplants. But from the side of the person who wants to get the transplant, if you need a heart, then you are probably going to be incentivized to not pay close attention to from where the heart was sourced.
Well, then you do need a heart.
I see what you're saying.
A different kind of heart.
But people tend to change their behavior, based on
when it comes to survival
necessity, right? And then, like we're talking about with Shanghai, where people are finally hitting the streets, they're finally leaving their homes. Why? They're starving.
Yeah.
There was footage I saw from, again, just looking through just Twitter, just searching Shanghai, footage allegedly of a huge crowd of people ransacking a grocery store simply because they're hungry and they're desperate, and that's all they've got now.
Yeah, I really feel for many people on this planet, particularly the folks in China right now who are the subject of horrific treatment in many different ways.
Here's another example for you. So one of the things that's happening to the people that are locked down in Shanghai is if you need medical assistance, let's say you're having a heart attack or something is happening to you that's not COVID related, you can't get into a hospital. One guy, old man, somebody's father, was put into an ambulance which went back and forth starting at 8 a.m. to several hospitals, and not one of them admitted him. Now he's laying outside of his neighborhood's committee entrance gate. No one's helping this guy. And that's not the only story like that. There's more coming up. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power. But there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, we have just enough time for you if you want to get on the line with us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, it's Ian.
And Bonnie.
And the captain.
You can join us online anytime you want. Just head over to freetalklive.com. We got a video site. It's called Odyssey. We stream live to Odyssey every single night. And that means you can also watch the videos at your leisure on demand anytime you want. Just go to video.freetalklive.com. And you can do that there. And follow our channel, please, at video.freetalklive.com.
Because we're kind of odd, you see?
There you go. Odyssey. Video.freetalklive.com. We've been talking a lot about Shanghai tonight, sharing some crazy stuff that we're seeing happening on social media. That's where you have to go if you want to get the real story about Shanghai. The mainstream media is whitewashing this. They're ignoring it. If you want to see what's happening, you got to see the footage.
And like it's 2022, right? Not the year. Look at your computer.
It is.
Just want to make sure. Make sure I didn't have like a what do you call it? The Berenstain Bears.
Mandela effect.
Yeah, that's right.
Make sure I didn't travel through it to another dimension today.
I was about to say like an aneurysm. You didn't have like a,
Okay, a little different. But it's 2022, and here we sit. There are multiple, like every form of government really is just a horrific version of government. They only use one thing to get their way, and that's violence and coercion. So like they're all horrific ways of organizing society, supposedly, which they don't do, or if they claim to, they do a poor job.
Creating disharmony.
Yeah, and this organization type is responsible for all of the largest and most heinous human atrocities of all time throughout all of human history.
But we need government, Captain.
No, we don't.
But we've always had it.
Who will build the roads, Ian? Well, guess what?
But
People.
I can't imagine anything different. So, Captain, we need them.
But what about the military?
Just because somebody's imagination is limited doesn't make the largest, most murderous, and anti-human organization type that has ever existed deserves to exist.
Captain, we just need to elect the right people.
Yeah, how's that going? It's worked so far, hasn't it?
It's terrible. The whole system is garbage, and no changes to it are going to make it any better.
And who decided that a popularity contest is the best way for society to sort of make its way? Like,
they did.
How did that even, like, what a horrible idea. And like they can't even do that right? Something like what are these crappy TV shows? The Voice and American Idol and the Singer, whatever these are, right? They do a much better job of having an election than the government does.
Sure.
Just as a process. Now, you combine that with, of course, the fact that governments use only one thing, and that's violence and coercion. To get their way, I can't see any reason for it to exist. And if the government does end up doing something positive somewhere along the line in its life, it doesn't excuse all of the horrific crap that they're causing.
Solid rant, Captain. Let's go to Stephanie on the line here. Stephanie, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yes, hello. I'm sorry I'm coming in late. I just discovered your radio show, and I caught the tail end of some conversation about crypto. I hope it's okay if I just go back and ask you one question.
Sure.
Have you discussed the possible future reality of the government taxing crypto?
Oh, they already are trying to do that. I believe they put some question on the IRS forms fairly high up about people buying crypto. They want them to somehow calculate how much they've either gained or lost off of whatever crypto that they've purchased and then pay the IRS capital gains tax on that. So they're already working on that.
Yes. Well, that's something to consider as a contraindication for crypto.
Oh yeah, they're trying everything they can to scare people away from cryptocurrency. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But the reality is there are ways to purchase crypto that are sort of off the books. You can buy from other individuals who will, voluntarily sell it to you. That way, there's not some sort of paper trail
And there's not going to be a way to get CBDC off the books and not pay taxes on it.
No doubt. No doubt. So if for those that are interested in finding those off-the-books methods, I recommend contacting local cryptocurrency groups and getting to know your cryptocurrency using neighbors and connect directly to them. There are, of course, websites that allow you to connect person to person for selling. They tend to have some scam artists on them, so you do need to be fairly careful. And if you really need to, of course, if you go through one of the centralized exchanges, and I'm not a lawyer, I can't give, or an accountant, so I can't give tax advice. Because my understanding, they can only tax you in the United States when you sell the cryptocurrency for dollars. So the purchase of cryptocurrency is tantamount to purchasing gold or silver or something like that.
Right.
It's the selling of it and the profiting from it in the form of dollars is what they are taxing. So just the purchase of crypto isn't going to necessarily set them off on you, I guess, my understanding.
Oh, thank you very much. That's an excellent explanation. And one other quick question. How much of the marketplace do you think, will accept crypto? I'm not involved in crypto, but I read and I'm observing and seeing what's happening. But I'm wondering, there's a lot of, most businesses, do not accept crypto.
I think in the future, the United States will start falling behind other countries and possibly even turn third world because of the way that the government is treating cryptocurrency. Other countries are not treating cryptocurrency the same way. Some are treating it just as badly. Like in the EU, a lot of their countries are doing...
They're cracking down.
On cryptocurrency. But all I can see is that governments who don't understand the value of crypto for their citizens are leading their country into third world conditions.
That's a good point. And there are a few bright spots out there. St. Kitts and St. Martin are two islands that are very highly cryptocurrency accepting places. Specifically, Bitcoin Cash has been spread around there quite a bit in just recent months. There's some pretty exciting stuff happening there. Of course, New Hampshire has a couple of little cities, Keene and Portsmouth, where there's several local businesses, maybe over a dozen here in Keene,
I think so.
that accept crypto. We're a small town, so it's a large number.
And that's why I want New Hampshire to secede from the Union, so we don't have to be involved in whatever the United States decides to do with cryptocurrency.
But Stephanie is right in that it is hard to find, in most places, local businesses that accept cryptocurrency. And that's because there just aren't enough people who value the idea of using crypto as a currency.
If you're interested in freedom and survival, maybe you should move to New Hampshire, but not if you're not.
Indeed.
Well, I think it's difficult for everybody today, trying to figure out what is the best move in so many areas because it's just so complex. Everything's so complex, and we all have our individual circumstances.
No doubt. Stephanie, I think the worst move, of course, in my opinion, is to stick with the dollar because you know that they're going to keep inflating the money supply. That's the game with the dollar. That's what they do. So finding alternatives, whether they be precious metals, cryptocurrency, other things, maybe real estate, investing in capital items for your business. There's a lot of things that you can do with that money. Just don't sit it in dollars or it will go down in value. Thanks for the call tonight. Appreciate hearing from you. Let's go to David in New Mexico. David, your thoughts?
Yeah, continuing to expose the incestuous and nepotistic nature of the government in New Mexico, including the judiciary. I had told you previously about how the lawyer that fabulously won my case for me with a unanimous win at the New Mexico Court of Appeals. Her name is Jane Yohalam. Thank you, Jane. Jane was very excited when she won that case for me. And now, coincidentally, she is now actually a Court of Appeals judge in New Mexico. And I don't think Jane ever got the opportunity to know what happened to that court case that she won. But let's inform her since she'll hear about it indirectly. Jane, when you won that case unanimously, and it was remanded back to the lower court, John J. Romero Jr., in the words of the decision, the judges wrote, we reverse M. Monica Zamora's illegal adoption of Mr. Olson's children and remand it back to the lower court to John J. Romero Jr. for, quote, appropriate action. And Jane, what the lower court did is absolutely nothing. John J. Romero Jr. did nothing with it.
That's the government for you.
I mean, according to government, that is appropriate action. Nothing. Yeah.
When it comes to your family. Thank you for the call tonight, David. I definitely appreciate it. We'll keep our eyes on what's going on in Shanghai. There's so much more out there. Again, probably the best opinion I've seen about it, the best observer, Jared T. Nelson on Twitter. You can follow his posts and see what's going on. We'll see you tomorrow. freetalklive.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com.